Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 10th, 2024 Newton County Board of Commissioners special call meeting. We're going to get started with our invocation by our County Clerk, Ms. Jackie Smith, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by District 1 Commissioner Stan Edwards.
Father, it's a beautiful day in Newton County, and we thank you for that. You've blessed us so much. You've been better to us than we've ever been to you, and we give you praise. Lord, we pray tonight for this special call meeting. We ask you to give us ears to hear. Help us to leave here understanding more about impact fees and more about the Unified Development Ordinance. Lord, we ask you to bless the people that have come out tonight because they love Newton County and they're concerned and they want to hear the good things that's going on here. And Father, we just join together right now and pray, oh God, a special prayer for the Applewhaite High School and Winder Barra family. We pray that you would undergird them with your strength, that you would lift them up with your mighty right hand, and oh God, put your strong arms around them in the hard days that they are facing ahead. Now, Father, give us a good meeting tonight. Help us to hear from you. And we thank you, oh God, for the privilege of serving you and for serving the people of this great county. In Jesus' name, amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda is the Unified Development Ordinance update. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished board members and residents of the community, we come before you today with our special call meeting in regards to our Unified Development Ordinance update, as well as our impact fee ordinance update. We're pleased to have consultants here to speak specifically to both matters, and at this time I'm going to yield to our development directors, Ms. Shena Applewhaite, and she'll bring the consultants on.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Good evening, Chairman, members of the Board of Commissioners. Thank you all for taking your time out to come out today for this special called meeting. But I just wanted to bring an update on our ordinance rewrite that we are doing, as well as the impact fees ordinance and the impact fee schedule. We're hoping to get a vote on the impact fees and the impact fee schedule at the next meeting, which will be next week. DCA has approved the CIA report that we submitted. So, and they've given us the go-ahead to start working towards adoption. This afternoon, we're going to start with the ordinance update. I do have our consultant team from Kendig Keast here. And we have Brian Marbury and Ms. Rachel Booth. And I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it over to them so they can tell you a little bit more about themselves and give you an overview of our approach towards updating the Unified Development Ordinance.
Thank you, Shena, and good evening, board members and other staff members. Thank you for having us here. I'm Brian Mabry with Kendig Keast Collaborative, as Shena said. We're here to update you on the Unified Development Ordinance that we're just getting started. And Glenn Coyne from GMC, our partner consulting firm, gave this same presentation, or a very similar presentation, to the Planning Commission on August 27th. But that was a week or so ago, here to give you all an update on where we are and just who we are, what we will do in this project, the end product you'll get, and what you all's role will be in the process. So at the top of our org chart here is the county itself. You all, you as the legislative body for the county will be the ones who end up adopting this and have the most say over what's in it. It'll come to you after getting a recommendation from the Planning Commission and them having a formal hearing, and then coming to you all, as I said, with their recommendation. But in the meantime, my firm, Keys Collaborative, is working and just getting started really on this project. We've got two partner sub-consultants on this. Chris Balch there on the left. He is a Georgia land use attorney with a vast experience. He'll be helping out with more of the procedural related matters, how rezoning is to be processed and acted on, or how a variance is to be acted on, things of that nature. And then GMC is our sort of more local presence. They were the firm that worked on the comprehensive plan. They'll be helping us kind of bridge that link or that gap between the work they did on the plan, which kind of sets the vision for how the county wants to grow in the future, and then the Unified Development Ordinance that we're working on, which is the set of laws that puts many of those recommendations in the plan into full effect by being, an ordinance that's adopted by you all that has sort of the full force of law. Again, you all are at the top of the food chain there. Then on the list here on the slide is Shena. We've been working very closely with her and other staff members, coordinating, getting logistics down, kind of boring stuff like that, but also learning from her and her staff more about the county. We're here. Rachel Booth is joining me here in the audience. We came last night and have been here today, and we'll be here tomorrow as well, doing several kinds of stakeholder interviews, focus group interviews, doing a tour of the county, and other activities like that to help us become more and more familiar with Newton County. Brett Keast, our boss, is principal in charge for this project. He is not here today, but will be on future trips that we have. But just again, we feel like we're well situated to help the county go through this process of updating its Unified Development Ordinance. A key part of the project, again, is the comprehensive plan that was adopted in June. That was about a 10-month process. This will be slightly longer than that, probably 12 to 15 months, we would expect, before you have an adopted updated Unified Development Ordinance. There was a lot of public involvement in that project, and we want to continue that trend by having a lot of public involvement in this project as well. A key part of the comprehensive plan is what you see on the screen there, the character map. That sort of divides the county up into different character areas, and you'll see that reflected in the zoning districts that we end up working on and producing that will be part of the Unified Development Ordinance. We haven't written anything yet. We're still in learning mode, but eventually when it gets to that point of being ready for more public review, you will definitely see those character areas reflected in the zoning districts. One comparison I like to kind of point out in a community that has just adopted a comprehensive plan, people might think, well, we just did the comprehensive plan. Now what is this project? Well, the difference is that the comprehensive plan is sort of like a menu at a restaurant, while the UDO is the cookbook. The menu shows what you could have when you go visit the restaurant, just like a comprehensive plan shows how the county could grow in the future, while the cookbook that the restaurant has shows how the different dishes are made. The UDO is the cookbook to how different developments are done. It has all the technical standards that are adopted as law that relate to a variety of different things: setbacks, building heights, landscaping, parking, all these other things that are real specific that go into the development of a given property. So advantages of a Unified Development Ordinance: it's a single source for most of the rules that go along with developing a property. When you have a single source like that, it helps you to get rid of inconsistencies and duplications that can cause problems when someone's trying to interpret what the UDO says. Makes it simpler for staff and for the development community to understand, and for lay people, neighbors to developing properties, helping them understand what the rules are in the ordinance. Some things that this document is not, though: it's not setting a tax policy or a tax rate for any properties in the county. It's not about annexation. The cities within the county can may annex as they will, but this doesn't really relate to that. It's not a capital improvements program, so it doesn't set out a schedule for expanding or extending infrastructure. It's not the building code. It doesn't relate to how many bathrooms a building has to have or what its electricity and plumbing and HVAC and all that are like. It's not construction standards that relate to how the road is paved or the dimensions of curb and gutter. And it's not a maintenance code. It doesn't force a property owner to improve a dilapidated, empty building. It can be semi-related to many of those topics, but it's really about the development of private property, what kind of land uses can take place on it, how much parking they have to provide, what kind of signs they can have, what kind of buffering and landscaping are required, what kinds of exterior building features are required, but not several of these other things that you see on the screen. We have a few kind of guiding principles that guide us for any project, and this is no exception for Newton County. Being simple as possible, working and drafting in what they call plain English, where you're using, avoiding heretofores and henceforths and forthwiths and words like that, and using simpler but still legally defensible language, making a lot of use of graphics, tables, illustrations, whatever the case may be, to make the meaning more clear to the average reader and user of the UDO. Certainty and clarity, but yet balancing with flexibility is the big trick of what we try to bring to a project like this, where there's when an applicant is putting in a project, submitting it to Shena's office, they know what the expectations are, they know what the standards are, and if they know that if they live up to those standards, then the process for approval should be as easy as possible, as long as they're living up to the standards that are required. Implementing the development-related policies, your comprehensive plan sets out the policies for how the county is going to grow, and we want this UDO to reflect that. Looking for opportunities to streamline the review process where possible. Some places, some types of applications are not going to be streamlinable, that you have to go through the public hearing process, but there might be other situations where we can give staff more authority to make certain decisions, so we'll be looking out for that. And then just recognizing one size doesn't fit all, that the regulations need to be tailored to Newton County, and as we learn more, we're going to see what's appropriate and what isn't for this area, and we're still, like I said, learning. There's several different things we're considering as we work on the UDO, and this is sort of a punch list of different kind of trends and hot topics in planning and zoning, so mixing of uses, affordability, missing middle housing, kind of the gap between single family and apartments. There's several kinds of housing in between there that sometimes local jurisdictions want to have more of, and so we want to, if that's something that the county wants to see, then we want to make that more possible. Looking at ways to encourage infill and redevelopment while also accommodating greenfield development as well. Having connections, whether it's vehicular or pedestrian connectivity between where people live and where they work and where they recreate. In a big area like a county, that can be difficult, but we can always give it a shot. Protecting resources and open space, whether it's agricultural or natural resources, parkland, all kinds of natural amenities like that will be on our minds, and then other trends that come along as we work on this project. Public engagement, again, is important for us. We've been doing public engagement this trip, and we'll continue to do it throughout. We've done several focus group and stakeholder meetings today, and we'll do some more tomorrow, where we bring in people and talk to them and get their thoughts and opinions on how the UDO currently functions and what it could do, what could be done to improve it. We're also going to be working on doing what we're called next step open houses, where people can come and learn more about the project and give their thoughts more from just the general public. We want to take advantage as much as we can of newsletters or social media that the county has to try to get the word out about what kinds of events we're doing and when the drafts become available for review. And so in the end, we just want to, as much as possible, avoid the scenario or have no surprises toward the end of the project. But we're sitting up here wanting you all to adopt the new UDO, and people saying that they've never heard of the project, they don't know anything about it, it's the first they've heard of it. That frequently happens, but we want to do all we can to try to keep that to a minimum, because by virtue of having engaged the public to an extent on this project. Here is a schedule, a kind of very broad, big picture schedule. We're just getting started, like I said, moving in through to the public outreach phase that's really going to last throughout the project. And the bottom line is getting toward ordinance drafting at the end of this year, very early next year, and looking at a finish line of adoption, summer or so of next year. Our schedule can be flexible and change as needs change, but we kind of have that finish line in mind of somewhere between July and about this time next year, I would say. So several things we're offering up, several trips to the county for in-person presentations, reconnaissance, and other conversations with stakeholders and lay people who have an interest in how the county develops. The 5 open house meetings that would be one in each district coming up in September and October that are kind of being planned out as we speak. Working on a critique of the existing regulations and showing how we think they should change in order to implement the plan, in order to reflect what we're hearing from stakeholders, in order to bring our best practices that we've kind of learned as a firm in business for 40 years doing this type of thing. Updating the future land use plan that's in your comp plan, collaboration between county staff, constantly, taking care of logistics, getting their thoughts on certain things, leading up again to a successful adoption. So your role and the Planning Commission's role, as you're probably aware, is as we work on drafts and as we do the critique and things of that nature, that we get feedback from you all on what you think is a good idea and what you think is not a good idea. We're open to all kinds of criticism and thoughts from you all and from the Plan Commission. Staying up to date on the project, and then obviously at the end having your hearing to make your final action on the UDO. So that concludes my presentation on this, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions or hear any comments that anyone has on the board.
Any questions from the board? District 1?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation. So the stakeholder interviews that you've done to date, how many have you done so far?
Today there were 3, I think, with various people, and the difference between stakeholder and focus group is stakeholder are people who are kind of technical experts and make a living off of designing around the code or representing applicants, versus lay people being those who are interested in development but don't make a living off of dealing with the UDO.
So the stakeholders could be developers, actually, right?
Yes.
Or, okay, so I have a concern there in terms of conflict. So I'll just make that note for the record right now, but and we'll see how this develops. But just, I know you go to those people for professional opinion, especially relative to this community. I want to be real careful that we don't have the emphasis on input for somebody that may have a conflict with the county. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. District 3?
And you stated that you had, thank you so much for your presentation first, but you stated that you had 3 community meetings?
Stakeholder meetings or focus group meetings today leading up to where we are right now. As I'm thinking, I'm trying to count them. I think it was 3 with different groups of people. There were, and their roles, it'd be helpful if I look at a sheet of paper that said who they were, but their roles were one was a land use or an attorney that represents applicants. One was an engineer. One was, or 2 of them I would characterize as sort of concerned citizens, possibly, or 3 of them actually were that. One was from coming in online to our meeting. And then I'm blanking on the third group that we talked to. Well, we talked to staff as well this morning. So we try to get as broad of a cross-section as we can when we talk to people. We kind of give staff some recommendations of the general types of people we tend to talk to. And of course, since we don't live here, we don't know individuals who would fulfill those roles. And so then staff ends up inviting them to come to the stakeholder interviews and we talk to
So
them.
staff gave you suggestion of who should come to these meetings?
Well, we gave them suggestions on the types of people. Like we normally, we say we would normally talk to an architect or an attorney and people concerned about the environment, who are kind of lay people or neighborhood association people. We give sort of the general idea of the type of people we talk to, and then staff gets and recruits kind of the specific people who fill those roles.
My concern kind of echoes my colleagues, because that's what I want to know, who were actually in these meetings, because I truly believe the community fully was not represented to put their input into this meeting or any information that you may have needed. And if you probably would have had some different individuals in it, I'm pretty sure you probably would have received a different response. So that's why I was asking, how did these people come about? And you stated that staff.
I probably would think staff could give you those names offline, but so.
Okay.
Thank you. So, commissioners, if I may, if you guys would like to offer up some suggestions, some names, I'll take those and be able to, I think I'm actually in a meeting with you guys tomorrow, but
okay.
I would definitely, will get that back. District 2?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I kind of just want to put this out here based off your presentation. I don't want the board to get so caught up in who is in this initial portion of this process. It is what we call a process, and sometimes it may not include who we want at the initial phase of the process. But if I heard you correctly, you did state that there will be community meetings in all 5 districts. Is that correct?
Yes, that's part of our scope of this project, is to have those community meetings. Yeah.
Correct. So even though this initial meeting of stakeholders may not have been individuals that this board may not have recommended or suggested, with your community meetings going forward, at that point, any person on this board will be able to invite individuals to those community meetings where they will be able to provide insight, feedback that this board would like to see or hear.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to provide clarity because I didn't want this board to get into the weeds about who was there at the initial stakeholder meetings and who were not there at the initial stakeholder meetings. Based off of your explanation, there will be an opportunity for more individuals to be able to participate and provide feedback in this particular process.
Yes, and not only the district meetings, but with each of our trips here, we'll be open to having more stakeholder and focus group meetings as we're working through the project. It's not as if the 10 total that we would be having this trip are the end of it. We would keep being open to. We just need to know we just need them to be invited to talk to us, and we'll talk to them and get their thoughts and opinions, and definitely work them into the regulations.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, sir. So my question, I've been through, a couple of different overlays and different projects in the past, and pardon me because I am very 10 days very new to this seat. So my question is, in the past when we did this, we would initially as commissioners reach out to, let's say we were doing, back in the day we were doing Salem overlay, so we would reach out to large landowners, we would reach out to different community people to help to develop that initial stakeholders group, and then start to have public meetings. Like I said, I am not fully aware of the process and the stage that you're at, but I would highly encourage that we at least be able to reach out to those large landowners and stakeholders in each and every district.
That makes sense, yes.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mabry. Chairman, if I may. All right. The second item we're going to be looking at today is an update on it will be the capital improvement elements as well as the impact fee ordinance and the fee schedule, and they're all connected. We do need to approve, not today, but we will need to approve the impact fee ordinance and schedule, before we can send the CIE back to DCA. So they're all interconnected. We will be bringing these back to you at the next meeting, to be considered for adoption. I just wanted today to be a bit of a refresher. We have Mr. Bill Ross. He's coming back in case you had any additional questions for him. He's going to briefly go through the capital improvement elements portion, and I will come back to just guide you through the ordinance updates we have and the proposal for the new fees for the impact fee schedule. So I'll invite Mr. Ross up now.
Thank you, Shena. I'm Bill Ross. What you just heard, I think, is a great program that's getting going. Impact fees, I hope, was a great study. We got the horses in the gate. We have done everything. You have done everything needed to amend your impact fee program by adopting the amendment to the impact fee ordinance. You've had your 2 public hearings. You've had more meetings than that, of course. And at this point, we're ready to have the impact fee ordinance adopted. The key, however, is how much do you want to charge? Because the impact fee ordinance will have a fee schedule in it. And we've had a lot of discussions back and forth about that. But when it's time to adopt that ordinance, it needs to have a fee schedule attached to it. The guy at the top? No, I just turned it off. Look at that. Okay. So a quick reminder on where we've been, what's been going on. You may recall there was that methodology report. The methodology report has everything in it with regard to calculating what the maximum impact fees can be. Chapters on the individual public facility categories, etc. Secondly, the capital improvements element has been before you, and that's the one that it went to DCA for review. They returned some comments. We addressed their comments, and we are done with the capital improvements element. We're down here at the bottom. 2 things that we need to do to launch the revised impact fee program for the county. One, of course, is that adopting that CIE is the final thing that DCA needs to see. And secondly, we need to adopt the revised impact fee ordinance as an amendment that has the fee schedule you actually want to adopt. The ordinance has been reviewed by your council. Great comments. I do want to emphasize that what you will be adopting is technically an amendment to the impact fee ordinance you already have. And I say that for the record because there's been some controversy with certain home builders in other counties that get themselves, they don't quite understand that that's, you've already got the ordinance. What you'll be adopting is an amendment to that ordinance that will basically adopt the impact fee schedule, replace the impact fee schedule you have with the one you want. So currently, you're collecting impact fees for roads improvements, the library, and parks and recreation. We have added to that the fire department, fire services, the sheriff's department, as well as animal services as new public facility categories that will be eligible for impact fee collections to help fund the future improvements that will be required to meet the demands of the future population and businesses that will be coming to the county over the next 20, 25 years. So that CIE, as I mentioned, it's got the forecasts in it of population, housing, and employment. That projects needs for what improvements do you need. This is key. The first thing we do is figure out what's the current level of service of all the people who live here, the businesses that are here, how many fire trucks are currently serving the existing population. That gives us a level of service. It may be 0.0005 fire trucks per household, but at any rate, that establishes the level of service you have now. We then say, well, okay, in order to maintain this level of service and avoid seeing your services go down as growth occurs, the impact fee will help fund the additional fire trucks, et cetera, that you'll be needed to maintain that level of service that you've got. And there's a 5-year community work program in that document. You've seen it. It's actually drawn from your current comprehensive plan primarily in terms of the impact fee improvements that are anticipated to occur year by year for the next 5 years. The community work program, that's what I was just talking about. This is how many impact fee eligible projects are you going to need? New buildings or expansions, new fire trucks, vehicles, more acres of parklands, more books in the library, and the road improvements, excuse me, that will be required to handle future traffic that you're facing. Quite often, of course, we draw on, well, of course, we drew on information from the departments themselves as far as what they have and what their goals might be. So this has all gone into that community work program. The comprehensive plan has a community work program. It goes way beyond impact fees. So what happens in the capital improvements element is that's an amendment to that that community work program that adds in, well, when are we going to buy a fire truck? When are we going to need to acquire some more library books to keep up the level of service? Calculating the impact fees, which again is mostly in the methodology report. What do you got? What do you need? How much growth is going to occur? How many more facilities, expansions or vehicles or whatever are going to be needed to maintain that level of service so that the new folks are getting the same level of service and they're not degrading the level of service that your current folks are enjoying today. That's the whole point behind having impact fees. Quick example, we said the library buildings have got 51,200 square feet. There's 45,000 housing units, divide one by the other, so the level of service is 1.1362 square feet per housing unit. So then, how many new housing units are going to be coming along in the next 20, 25 years? That times the level of service tells you how many more square feet would be needed to serve new growth at the same level of service as existing growth and not deteriorating the level of service the people in the county enjoy today. And how much is that going to cost? And of how much that's going to cost, divide that by the future housing units, and that tells you what the fee per housing unit, now these are maximums, is what we calculate, how much would it cost per housing unit to keep up that level of service. And that number goes into the maximum impact fee calculation. And of course, this is repeated over and over and over for all of the public facilities and all of the buildings and vehicles that you have today. And we also take out of that, how much money have you already got in the bank that's been collected? That can be spent on future improvements, as well as we looked at SPLOST, what SPLOST going to generate, so that we don't end up with double taxation. You pay SPLOST, you pay an impact fee, and it's all for the same thing. So those are already taken out of the calculation, so we're not double counting the dollars, if you will. This is an example of the maximum impact fee. And as I've said before, we do the maximum because the law says you can't charge too much. What's too much? That's what the maximum is. You can charge less, as we have discussed with you in the past. So this is an example of the maximum, and you can see a single-family house, you could charge up to $8,721 per house in an impact fee at 100%, if you wanted to. So you can charge the maximum or less, as we've talked with you in the past. And this is a continuation of that same chart. You can see that there are many, many, many land use categories in that ordinance. So we've generally got just about everybody covered. The ordinance does have some parts that if a land use shows up that you've never seen before, there's even a process to calculate an impact fee for that new use. Or somebody might say, well, I'm on the list, I'm a tire store, but I do my business in an entirely different way. I'm not like the other tire stores. So there's a process, again, an appeal process for the county to determine, well, what should the fee be for this special use. That's all included in the impact fee ordinance. This is the part where I'm supposed to shut up.
Thank you, thank you. Any questions from the board? District 3.
So much. I have a question. I was looking at the impact fee schedule. I know originally we were talking about doubling our impact fees to like about $3,500, and I saw the other schedule with the examples that you gave. One can be at $8,700. Henry County just increased theirs in July, and their population is a whole lot bigger than ours, to 7,000. So have you, in your expertise, seen the higher the impact fee, the more costs for housing per unit?
No, the housing, well, if you adopt a fee that's incredibly high, yes, you might impact the housing market. And of course, you've heard from the home builders and whatnot, as well as the Chamber of Commerce have also brought issues to the floor, and we have addressed all of these as we went along. So I'm not seeing the home builders suffering because the cities and counties take into account, well, how is this going to affect the housing market? One of the fee schedules that we had passed out before, I calculated what the impact fees would be if they were 1% of a new house, 1%. I'm not proposing that to you, but it's often brought forward. Well, what if we only, the impact fee is only going to be 1% of the cost of a house? So I've done that calculation. Over the years, in so many cities and counties, I've seen the home builders and the development community in general accommodate the impact fees in various ways. It's rarely the case that the home builders will increase their asking price for a new house to accommodate the impact fees. In some counties, some cities, they do. But it's more often we've seen that they will take what would otherwise be a standard improvement, a marble countertop in the kitchen, and they will replace that in the house for sale with linoleum. And then they say, oh, well, if you want the granite, we got granite, that's going to be an add-on. And the interesting thing there, this is just rule of thumb, the gross profit in the price that a house is sold for is about 20-25%. That's gross profit that pays for their offices, their employees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's gross profit. But for add-ons, that gross profit is generally around 50%. So they end up making more money by upgrading. I've got one county down on the coast. No, the houses when they're shown, there are no doorknobs. There are no light fixtures in the ceiling. Oh, you want doorknobs? Well, we've got 5 or 6 different varieties for you to choose from. That's an add-on. So I have not seen any home builders who have ever come forward and said this is going to kill the market, because you folks take that into consideration when you set the impact fee you want. And I think we've had a lot of conversations that the maximum may be too high, and somewhere down from that, I think we talked about 60% at one point, the impact fee that you are comfortable with, and the market, not only home builders, but also commercial developers are able to incorporate into their sales. So
I wasn't looking on per se of it affecting the developer. I was looking on it affecting the consumer, the cost of the home. Have you ever heard of it higher the impact fee? Because I see that one of these impact fee suggestions that you have here is way higher than some of the population of other counties that are larger.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I was asking that question with us being Newton with possibly 130, 120,000 residents. It's probably more than that because everybody doesn't do the census.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at that average essential worker. And I was asking, have you ever seen that having a high impact fee affects the consumer, not more so the seller?
We haven't seen any drop in
Okay.
sales
Okay.
at all in any of these jurisdictions. What we mostly see are developers rush in and get a lot of building permits before the new fees take effect. But other than that, we're not seeing the markets affected at all. So it's the interest rate on those mortgages that are killing the market these days.
That's what I was speaking of,
Yeah.
the cost of the house. Have you ever seen it?
yeah.
So, but thank you.
Thank you. District 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. This is a very, sometimes it can be a complex subject matter. I currently sit as the chairman of the Revenue and Finance Committee for the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. And in that role, I get an opportunity to really look at property taxes, sales taxes, things like that, general revenue that the county is able to incur to ensure that they're providing these services for the taxpayers within the community. And when we look at home values, they're different than what we consider as impact fees. And so I know that one of our neighboring counties was brought up as an example, where even when you look at that particular neighboring county, they even have what you call a frozen homestead exemption. We don't have that here in Newton County. And so they have to look at things from a different perspective because of some of the property tax matters that they have in place that we may not have here. And so they have to figure out, well, if we're stabilizing property taxes, where do we get revenue to be able to provide the services to those taxpayers, because we're not getting them from taxpayers as much. So how can I figure out a balance? Well, we don't have that same subject matter here, or that same situation here in Newton County. Ours is slightly different. And so it's challenging to compare Newton County to other counties when we don't have all of the details of what that budget is set up, what their policies that they have in place. So it's really challenging. But what we can do as a board, we can look at Newton County as a whole and say, well, what do we have in place? How can we generate the revenue to be able to provide the services to the residents that we have? Of course, I do believe that we have not really addressed the impact fee matter in quite some time. So I think the timing is right. It is time for us to review that, because we're seeing where we may not be in a position where we're growing, but we're not generating the revenue that we need to kind of keep up to provide the services for the residents that are here. So I think this is one of the ways that this board can kind of really look at it from a streamlined perspective to say, how can we figure out an additional way outside of property taxes and fees to really provide the services and provide the quality of life for our residents as needed. And so let's look at our community as a whole, what all we have here, and really be able to say, like you said in your presentation, you know, what are the current services? What are the future services that we want to provide based off of the growth that we forecast or foresee? And that'll kind of help in that formula on what will be the best method. And then, of course, even the decision that we make now, we may even have to revisit that, you know, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, to say, okay, you know, we forecasted this, but now we may need to look at it and revisit the impact fees again going forward. So I just wanted to put that out there for clarity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. District 4?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know who the question goes to. How much are we charging for impact fees for a single-family home? I think during your presentation, you said we could charge them as much as $8,000 or over $8,000. So what are we charging now? And the second question, how much impact fee money do we have in the bank at present?
Aren't you charging about $1,300 for a single-family house? What's the? $1,769 is what you're charging right now, and that's for fewer public services. In this program, you've added additional services, so obviously the fee's going to go up to cover those. Well, animal control, for instance, is not
Absolutely.
in the original. So, yeah.
Well, you won't get an argument for animal control from me. I know I live in the city and I know what type of service they provide. But but how much do we have in the bank? Anybody know for the impact fees as of the present? And the reason why I'm saying is there's been projects, you know, in very high growth areas, and I always think about District 3, and it's, you know, it seems like we don't have any money spent. It's a lot of growth, but it seems like no money hardly want to be spent as far as in that particular area. In town, where District 4 is, and a little bit I have in unincorporated area, you know, it's more of city type deal. And so, and I'm speaking for myself. I don't see, and maybe somebody explained to me at some point, you know, for his impact fee money, as for as being spent in some areas where I think it's desperately needed to be spent at. So hopefully, and I think one time we went up a little bit higher than, you said 1,700 for single-family home, a little bit higher. Man, there was so many folks came in here and they would stand up almost breathing fire. So hopefully we have meetings, and it probably most of the developers as well. So we probably need to have meetings and stuff, and maybe come to some amount of money that everybody can kind of maybe live with and still have the growth that we still have in our county.
And let me add, you're absolutely correct. Let me add that during the annual budgeting process, that's when you decide, where do we need that new fire truck? Okay, so that gets locational that way. The program here says you're gonna need these many more fire trucks, but it doesn't tell you where they need to be. That's your responsibility at the budget process, because you'll have, in the annual budget, you know you're gonna spend some money for this and this and this, and where is it gonna be? Some budgets, I'm not sure here, but some budgets include a 5-year work program to begin with. And so buying a fire truck in 2 years over here and 4 years over there, again, it's all part of your decision-making process.
All right, I just want to add, I'm going to close, Mr. Chairman. Most time during our budget, the budget is made, and maybe my board member will kind of correct me on this, and it's kind of given to us that, well, here it is, and he wants you to vote for it, and you don't know exactly the specifics as far as the budget. Now, the employees come in and they give a presentation, and the fire chief come in and say, well, I need a fire truck, I need this, need that. But at the end of the day, between the chairman and the county manager, we're given a budget, and probably lack of a wrong word, Mr. Chairman, to be rubber stamped, and so so most time I don't participate in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move to District 1, I got a couple questions. First question, and I know the city has been going back and forth with their impact fees. So if you build inside of the city of Covington, do you pay both a city and a county impact fee?
They will. Covington charges their own impact fee for the facilities that they are personally responsible for. And so if you're building a house in Covington, you would pay the Covington impact fee and the county impact fee. But the county impact fee takes notice of different levels of service that are being provided by the county to begin with, so that the fee in the city for a particular service may be less than what that same fee would be outside of the city.
Okay. My second question, and as I was listening to your presentation, you said adequate level of service. So are we basing it off of the services we're doing now? And like I said, pardon me, I'm 10 days up here. Because I guess in my mind I see, are we giving adequate services now? And if we're using that same formula for the future, is that actually helping us? Are we getting further behind?
All I could do was take the level of service you're providing now and say, to maintain that level of service, you would need or could charge new development a certain amount of money to increase the books in the library, et cetera. You could have said to me, well, the library's behind. I don't mean to pick on the library. A particular public facility isn't really serving the public as we would like them to be. And so the approach there would be to say, okay, how much more money is going to be needed to improve that service up to the level of service you would want to achieve, and then base the future impact fees on that. But you've got to remember that new growth can't pay for just increasing that's got to come out of the budget somewhere to bring that service, whatever it is, up to the level that you would want it to be.
Absolutely. And I just encourage the board to at least, think about the level of service we have now and think about the future. And we got to strike a balance between being high enough and not being too high that it hinders growth inside of the community. Outside of the single family homes, when you start getting into the commercial and industrial and some of the other things, we just got to strike, I believe we got to strike a good balance with that. District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to ask an additional question along the lines of what the chairman had asked, the city, where the impact fees are being charged at a city and county level now, correct?
Yes.
So that
No, oh, no. The fees are collected when a building permit is issued.
When a permit is submitted, we collect the impact fees at that time. So we only permit homes that are in the unincorporated Newton County.
So the city of Covington has no impact fee per se?
They have their own, their own jurisdiction.
But we're paying, but the citizen that builds in Covington is paying both of those now, right?
No,
Right.
yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. So now let me ask you this, and this may be a question for you, Shena, is where in the pipeline is let's say a developer of a subdivision, where is he in the pipeline now, where if we pass a fee tonight, how would that impact somebody that's already in the pipeline?
It would be at the time that they submit the permit. If they have not submitted any building permits as yet, then if this goes into effect tonight and they come tomorrow to submit the permit, they will pay the new impact fee.
So they could have a final plat but no building permits, and this would not impact them? This would impact them?
This would impact them,
at the
correct.
permit of the
Yes.
building? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, and the other one I wanted to say was a comment. I think we heard the chairman and the gentleman explain that, we don't know if our baseline now, we don't know if we have to assume, I think, that the services for the citizens, the existing citizens, are being met today. And these impact fees, maybe they're not, but these in theory, these impact fees go to take care of someone who may move here in the future, a business or a citizen, a person or a household or an industry. So we're taking into account when we put these impact fees in place, we take into account we're building or we're charging to take care of the infrastructure and the fire and the animal services and the park recreation that they will consume, as opposed to the people that are already here, because you have to assume we're adequate now. I don't think we are in a lot of areas, but you have to assume, the assumption is, right? So we have to make sure that, I believe I heard you guys talking. The Commissioner, District 2 and I were talking a little on the side, but I may have missed it. So when we put these in place, we just have to make sure that we're confident that our needs, these categorical needs, are being met today. And if they're not, then we have to make up those fees with our new fee, with the new calculations.
Yes, you can always come back and adjust the fee schedule. I can always bring it back before the board if there's a need to adjust it up or down. It's just, it will be an amendment.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. District 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real briefly, I think just adding on to what Commissioner Edwards said, to my understanding, is that we may not be adequately providing what we need currently. And so that's why we're looking at this fee schedule, so that we can not only provide adequate services for current, but forecasting for future as well. So I think it's collectively, if I am correct, we're looking at, maybe we're not adequately generating the revenue from the growth that we need to. So this will help us adequately provide for current as well as forecasting for future, if I'm hearing correctly.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You're hired.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Are we doing
District 4?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to give one last comment. And as far as the people who may live in towns, and I'm speaking also for the people who live in District 4, we just tired of all these taxes. I mean, taxes, killing us. And we already paying double tax on everything else. And so, you know, we need to be mindful of not just taxing people to death. And I heard a few of my friends other on the board said that, well, I just moved. Well, some of us can't move. I can't move. I got to stay here and kind of put up with all these taxes. So let's just be mindful for our residents who maybe can't leave our town and move somewhere else, that I think we're being taxed to death.
Thanks, sir. Any other questions from the board?
Okay, we just have one final section, Chairman. So I just want to quickly just do a refresher. So we have the actual impact fee ordinance that we are amending with the help of Mr. Ross, and then it was reviewed by our legal team, and this is the result that we have today. So some of the major updates we have, and I believe the red line version would have been emailed to you in PDF. I sent those to the clerk. But we're looking at updating the language, of course. We've added new sections, and we've also moved around or relocated, sections that were in there so that it flows better. So I won't read through everything. You should have a copy of this on hand. If not, I'll be happy to answer any questions. But of course, the areas in red, are where the changes are. So we looked at the fee assessment and payment, and the appeals process. Of course, we looked at some exemptions. This is a new section that was added in regards to refunds and what is eligible for a refund and how we would go about doing that process. And of course, we have periodic review and amendments. We added a section on that just for further clarity. And that's just a continuation of what was redacted, what was amended. So like I said, I didn't go through all the fine print with that. But so the key part of this amendment is also the fee schedule. So as Mr. Ross said earlier, this is, he's calculated what would be for the maximums. So currently we have, I'm gonna come back to that. So this is our current fee schedule right now. And you see we're doing, I think it's $17.62 and some change is what we're currently charging for single family homes. We currently do not do commercial. We have all those zeros in there, and we are reintroducing it in this new fee schedule. Hopefully to capture some more of those fees so we can get the funds to go into the relevant departments that they need to. So this is what we currently have right now. This chart here is a comparative chart. So we have the other surrounding counties, right? So this is their single family home. This is, and I guess Henry County just updated theirs, so we'll note that. But this is on average what they're charging currently, and then you have the different percentages here: 100%, like what it would look like for Newton County, 40%, 60%. And we'll go into detail in that. This is just, I know we have apartments, and then we have it for commercial supermarkets, office buildings. So just to give you an idea in this second column of what our surrounding counties are currently charging. And again, we're only doing residential homes at $17.62, per unit. And this is the old one here. So these are some figures that Mr. Ross put together for us. So if we were to select our new rate to be 100%, right, we would be at the $8,700 here for the single family homes and apartments. And then it just, these are just some examples of, how much we would collect per unit. If we do 20%, of course, it'll go down considerably, $746 for single family homes. I don't believe we're looking to go that low. 40%, it will be up at $3,400 for single family homes. The column in the yellow is what I highlighted, and it goes through the different rates, that's what it would look like if we were to increase by 40%. And of course, we have 51%. That would put us at 4,400 for single-family homes. 2777 for apartments, and so on and so forth. If we go a little higher at 60%, that will be at $5,200. This is not a figure for the board to consider, and then apartments would be at the 3343, I believe. Trying to see all the way up there, and of course the others in yellow. So staff would recommend, because we are adding new departments, anywhere between 40 to 50%, would be our recommendation to the board. The board may go higher than that, the board may go lower than that. So we would, at the time of adoption of the fees, we would have to make a determination, and we're hoping to bring this next week to the board for the impact fee ordinance adoption, which will also include a fee schedule, and of course the CIE report adoption, because we have to send the CIE report back to the DCA to show them that we have adopted it. And if there are any other questions for staff.
District 3.
Do we have a required amount of units that can be built for apartment complexes?
The density would determine that depending on where they're located, if they're in an overlay or outside of the overlay.
What, do you happen to know what the amount is, if it's in the overlay and if it's outside of an overlay?
So for example, if we're in the Salem overlay, like townhouses are 8 units per acre. It's a little higher for the apartments. Almond overlay, we're at 15 units per acre. So it just depends on where in the county we're located.
Okay. What I would like to see, and I'm pretty sure the residents would like to see as well, if we're increasing these impact fees, that we come up with a viable, I would say, budget that we are going to utilize these funds to better the county. And what I mean by that, certain areas of the county, they don't have access directly to a library. They have to travel to get to that library. It's either on this side of town or on the other side of town. There's nothing in the middle. Our library always comes to us for additional funds because they're inadequate. They don't have the amount of information that's, if you can give you an example, you have other libraries that are green screen technology and are suffice for this trend that we have now, for our teenagers that are out now to be able to use the library. If you ask a teenager right now, do they actually go to the library, they would say they have more information on their iPad. So we need to provide those services to make sure that our libraries are up to date. Even with our fire services, we know in the areas that have the most density, does not have enough safety in regards to fire services. I've been conversing with that fire chief in regards to that. Seen houses burned down to the ground, couldn't get to them on time. So I would like to see an actual schedule of where these additional funds are going to go. Not just say we do need to increase, yes, we do need to increase our fees, but we're gonna say to the residents, we're increasing these fees because we're gonna provide this for the county. We're gonna provide that for the county so that they're actually going back into those areas. As you heard me say numerous times, I've had developers come to me and say, especially in Gwinnett County, and I compare counties because they have gotten it right. They've done it, so that's why there's a comparison. And those developers say when those impact fees come out of that specific district or area, it goes back into that district, whether it's for parks and recreation, if it's for the roads in that specific district. So because they're building, the funding's going back into build and to better the infrastructure. We do not do that here in Newton County. A lot of those impact fees are not going over to the west side, and we know that. So we need to make sure it's distributed and we are improving every part of this county evenly. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions from the board?
Okay, Chairman, so thank you very much, board, for taking the time out to come out today. The only other thing I wanted to add is that staff is also going to request next week, when we're presenting it for adoption, if we can make the date effective probably somewhere around November 1st. Because we do need that time. It's about just over 30 days for us to get our software together, because since we're doing commercial impact fees now, Mr. Ross is going to get us situated with how we can calculate that. So that would give us some time to get staff ready to collect the new fees. So what it means is that if, should the board adopt it and approve the November 1st effective date, anyone who submits on November 2nd for a building permit will in fact be paying whatever the new fee that the board decides.
Thank you. Board members, if you'd like to reach out to me over the next day or so and have a discussion on that percentage, so we'll have that for next week. County Manager, you got anything?
I have nothing else, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairman.
Board, moving on to item number 4. We do need a executive session for pending litigation and real estate acquisition. I need a motion. Second. Motion second. All in favor? We do not anticipate a vote coming out of here, correct? Thank you.